I never intended to tell him. It was supposed to stay hidden beneath the neon glow, drowned in the chaos of Vegas and the haze of one too many drinks. But guilt has a way of making itself known. It doesn't whisper. It screams when the world goes quiet. My name is Sarah. I'm 32, a marketing executive, married 6 years to Ryan. He's the kind of man people call dependable, steady, kind, predictable in a way that used to make me feel safe. Somewhere along the line, though, that safety started to feel like a cage. Vegas was meant to be an escape, a girl's trip, a break from routine and responsibility. I told Ryan I needed time with friends. He smiled, kissed my forehead, and said, "You deserve it." I still remember the brush of his thumb across my cheek. Gentle, trusting. That look should have stopped me from boarding the plane. The first night in Vegas, I told myself I just want to feel alive again. The music, the lights, the endless possibilities. It was intoxicating. And then there were two men, strangers, completely forgettable come morning. It wasn't love. It wasn't passion. It was recklessness wrapped in self-pity. I told myself it was just fun, that it meant nothing. But when I saw myself in the hotel mirror afterward, mascara smudge, hair messy, I barely recognized a woman staring back. The flight home was quiet. My friend slept while I stared out the window, clouds drifting by like pieces of my conscience. Ryan met me at the airport, holding a coffee exactly the way I liked it. Extra cream, no sugar. His smile made my chest ache. I told myself again, he doesn't need to know. Just move on. Be better. But guilt doesn't fade. It ferments. It crept in the smallest moments. When he reached for my hand, when he made dinner, when he said, "I love you," and I hesitated before answering. I thought if I pretended long enough, it would disappear. Instead, it only grew. 3 weeks later, Ryan came home early. I was on the couch, staring blankly at the TV. "Are you okay?" he asked. Not casually, carefully, like he already knew. My throat tightened. "Yeah," I lied, my voice cracking. He sat beside me, studying my face. "You've been distant," he said softly. "If something's wrong, just tell me." That was the moment. I could have stayed silent. I could have smiled and changed the subject. But guilt finally broke me. I told him everything, every reckless, humiliating detail. The club, the drinks, the strangers. The silence afterward was heavier than any scream. He didn't yell, didn't interrupt. He just sat there, calm in a way that isn't peace. It's the stillness before something cracks. When I finished, I waited for the explosion, the accusations. But he simply exhaled and said, "Thank you for telling me." Worse than anger. He stood, walked to a window, and stared out for what felt like forever. My heart hammered. When he finally turned back, his eyes weren't wet. They were empty, like he had stepped outside himself to survive the moment. "Why?" he asked quietly. Was it me? Something I didn't do. I shook my head, tears streaming. "No, it wasn't you. He cut me off, voice steady. "It was you." Something inside me shattered. He didn't yell, didn't slam doors. He just walked the bedroom, grabbed his jacket and keys, and paused at the doorway. I wanted to run to him, to undo it all, but I couldn't move. I could only watch. His voice was low, even terrifying in its calm. "You didn't just lose me tonight, Sarah. You lost a version of me that ever looked at you with trust." Then he left. The door closing sounded like the end of a chapter one hadn't realized I'd been writing. The house went silent, too quiet. I sat staring at the empty doorway, waiting for him to return, but he didn't. Only the hum of the refrigerator and the faint ticking of the clock filled the space he'd once occupied. That night, I couldn't sleep. His words echoed in my mind. "You lost a version of me that ever looked at you with trust." Every corner of the house felt haunted. His coffee mug on the counter, his jacket on the chair, the faint trace of his cologne in the hallway. In the morning, I called his phone straight to voicemail. I texted. Nothing. By noon, I drove to his office, hoping he'd want to talk. He wasn't there. His assistant said he'd taken a few days off. That's when it hit me. He wasn't just cooling off. He was gone. Days turned into weeks. I told myself he might come back. Maybe he just needed time. I tried to give him space. Then one Friday evening, he showed up. I was on the porch steps, lost in thought, when his car pulled into the driveway. My heart leapt, foolishly hopeful. He looked different. Same calm demeanor, same clothes, but something in his face had changed. He wasn't angry. He wasn't sad. He was resolved. "I came to get the rest of my things," he said simply, voice polite but distant. I nodded, throat dry. "Ryan, please, can we talk? Just once." He sighed, eyes meeting mine briefly before looking away. "Talking won't fix what's done." "I made a mistake," I said quickly. "I was stupid. He shook his head, stopping me. "You didn't make a mistake, Sarah. You made a choice. That's the difference." He walked inside. I followed like a ghost in my own house. He moved quietly from room to room, gathering his things, books, shirts, his guitar. Watching him pack was unbearable. Every zip of a bag felt like another nail in the coffin of our life together. When he was done, he faced me one last time. "You know," he said softly, "I used to wonder what kind of person could cheat and still look their partner in the eyes. Now I don't wonder anymore." Tears burned my eyes, but I forced the words out. "I loved you, Ryan. I still do." He nodded once. "Maybe you did, but love without respect is just chaos. Sarah, you taught me that." No anger in his voice, just truth, and that truth cut deeper than any insult ever could. After he left, the house didn't feel like home. It was a museum of moments I had destroyed. Photos from trips, anniversary cards, reminders of love that once felt unbreakable. I thought about deleting his number, but couldn't. I kept scrolling through old texts, rereading his words as if they could take me back to the person I used to be. Months passed. I went to therapy, tried to understand why I did it. Each session peeled back another layer. Self-deception, loneliness, resentment, the illusion of freedom. Beneath it all, though it was simpler, I wanted to feel seen, and I sought it in the worst way. One day, I ran into him at a downtown cafe. He looked lighter somehow, peaceful. He smiled politely. That same calm expression I had once loved. For a fleeting second, I thought maybe we could talk, maybe rebuild. But when I said his name, he simply nodded. "Take care, Sarah," he said and walked past. I realized then that forgiveness doesn't always mean reconciliation. Sometimes it's just the absence of hate. I still wear my wedding ring, not because I expect him back, but because it reminds me of the person I was meant to be. The woman who promised to love, protect, honor. The woman who broke that promise. Vegas was just one night, a few hours, but the damage never stayed there. It followed me home, sat beside me each morning, whispered in every quiet moment. I used to think losing him was the worst thing. Now I know it's losing the version of myself he believed in. That's the thing about betrayal. It doesn't end when the other person walks away. It lingers in mirrors and memories long after the apologies fade. Ryan once said, "Love is built on trust, and trust is built on truth."